welcome back to Sister Site.
Wait. It like blacked out for a second.
I saw that too. Okay. Hi, and welcome back to Sister Site. This week's episode, we're going to start talking about prayer and conversation and what that really means.
Yeah. So we're going to start talking about conversation with a conversation.
Let's get meta. So a conversation is a dialogue between two people, any kind of people, right? Like we're obviously having a conversation now.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to have a good conversation, it needs to be balanced between speaking and listening. So that plays into prayer because when you are praying, you are like speaking to source, and then you have rest, and that's when you get the answers to your prayer because source wants to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And I would say like prayer happens between, yes, you and source, but also between you and conversation happens between any two beings that have consciousness. So that could be an animal, that could be a plant, that could be nature, that could be source. And there should always be the balance of the give and take. Because if you're just keep talking with no intention of listening, it's, I don't know, selfish, pointless. There's no outcome from that.
Yeah. Once again, from like the last episode, we play back into that. Those people are often living too much in the light and they're not being balanced with their ability to be still and listen.
Mm-hmm.
So, fair point.
And I would say conversation or prayer comes naturally to humans. We have a natural desire to communicate with our energy and with our words and exert it as an offering to source or to spirit. So I don't know. Yeah. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that prayer does come naturally to us? Or do you think it's something that we've been like conditioned to do through religion and, spiritual practice?
I think it's something that comes naturally to us because we are social creatures, and therefore we have an innate ability to want to communicate and want to be understood. So from the moment, I mean, even if we didn't have like verbal forms of communication, we would still be in an act of prayer at times because we are still seeking to have a conversation with a source or something that is greater than us.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that looks like, it could be like any kind of God. It could be the source of everything. It can even be like something greater or bigger than you. Like when I pray over my food, I'm giving gratitude for my food, but I'm giving gratitude and thanks for the person who created the food, who put more energy into the food. Therefore, it's a greater thing for them. Excuse me. And I'm also praying for like the farmers who created the food because without them, I wouldn't have the food. And also, their energy input to it is far greater than mine. So they are having more, they're the greater force.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention the sunshine and the earth that literally sustains the growth of our food. Yeah.
It's
So
like
it's like a spiral that just gets like kind of wider and wider.
the
macrocosm.
You go all the way up.
Micro.
You go all the way up.
And I think the power of prayer lies in the emotional intent behind it. So there's something that I call flat prayer, which is, I remember being a kid and my mom being like, okay, who's going to pray over dinner? And like my brother and I'd be like, oh, I guess I'll do it. And you have this like little formula you say just to like get it over with. And that is not prayer. There is no emotion behind it. There's no heart behind it. And the saying that words are powerful, they are powerful when they hold intention. I
Mm.
think words can also be flat and they're just words. So when you reinforce your words with intention, that's when you truly are praying.
I completely agree with that. I
Hmm.
got, when I was a kid, story time, sorry.
Love it.
When I was a kid, I was asked to say a prayer one time. And then they were like, we're not asking her to do that again. Now they ask me to pray, obviously, because I've been praying for so long over my food and it's very visual. But when I was a kid, it was like, Jackie, say the prayer. And I did, and I put so much energy into it, but I ended it with, Amen, dig in. And they were like, no,
I
no, you
love
can't say that.
that.
I still actually say that in my head sometimes. I'm like, okay, amen, dig in. Whatever.
I love that. That's so cute. When I was in herbal school, we would have a potluck for every lunch we did together, and we would all get in a big circle and we would all hold hands and we would do an om, but it would be yum. So you're
Yeah.
like yum all together, and it just created this like really cool swirling like collective energy, and it did feel like an offering, to the food and offering of gratitude. But I think prayers come in many forms, and I don't think it even has to be words necessarily. I think you can pray in different forms, like dance or music, or sometimes when I play music and sing, I feel like that is my prayer, that is like my offering, or even like drumming, or I mean, there's all kinds of ways to, communicate with Source. But I guess words are probably the easiest access. But there's also silent prayer. So, and that's another thing is that like no matter the words you say, I feel like the universe reacts off of your intention and your emotion, your emotional energy. So, it doesn't really matter what you say, it matters how you feel and what you think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you do align what you say with how you feel and how you think, it's even more powerful because
Mm-hmm.
words do add an extra like dimension to it.
Yeah, I like the thought that worded prayer is verbalization of your visualization.
Mm.
So, like, if you are praying through words and you are actively imagining what you're praying about and you're putting words to that, that's like two different forms of focus coming in to meet at the same time. And that also makes it more powerful. And I also totally agree that the more impassioned your prayer is, the more clearly source or whatever it is that you're praying to can hear it.
Yeah. Also, like, sometimes I feel like I'm praying to myself, like I'm praying to maybe my higher self or maybe my spirit self. And it feels like if we think of us as having no disconnection from source, like sources within us, then really it's like you are praying to yourself and only you know how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you can't trick yourself. You can't, it's like if you're like your vibration is going to attract what you're praying for or whatever. So I feel like there are times when people are praying and want like for desires of things that they want, and it can be a little selfish, but
Mm.
yeah, especially like material things, like I'm praying for this new truck, whatever. But if you're focusing on what you don't have and you're focusing on that lack in your life, you can't exactly attract what you're trying to attract. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you're focusing more on the lack than you are actually focusing on the receiving. So
Mhm.
when doing that, you kind of are praying for more lack so you can have more desires.
Yeah, because your vibrational energy is like in this place of lack, in this place of like not believing in what you could actually have. But it's like, yeah, if you're praying for these like really selfish material possessions, like you probably are at a vibration that's not very high,
Mm.
in that moment of like just selfishly wanting this thing that maybe you don't even need. I don't know that I do have a problem with prayer when it's used in that way. Like I don't know.
I think everything can be used for not good purposes.
True. But I do think it's like it's part of being a human to like want these things. So where do you even draw the line of like being selfish and then actually wanting something for the greater good. I don't
You
know.
shift your perspective on that. So what we're talking about is people praying for things outside of them. Please give me this thing that comes to me. Please give me this thing that isn't already here. And if you shift your perspective on that and start praying for things that are more like, please let me have the stability of myself in order to gain a good job so that I can receive the things that I need to survive. That's a bit more of a different prayer because instead of like searching outside, like, please, God, help me walk this path. Well, that's actually not a very good one because I actually pray for that often. Help me walk this path. But I'm talking about like an internal path, like
Mm-hmm.
help me heal my wounds so that I can be more healed, so I can be more complete, so I can start interacting with the world from a better standpoint rather than a wounded standpoint, which is
True.
important.
So you kind of have to do a deep dive on your intention and think, okay, I'm praying for this like material thing that I like feel like I need in my life. So let's go down to like, why do you need it? Why do you feel you need it? How can it serve you? How can it, propel you? But I mean, growing up in the Bible Belt, you just see a lot of it that just kind of falls flat, and it's like just feels selfish.
Please let me not gain 5 pounds from eating this entire cake. Please. That's all I want right now.
I know.
Also, people kind of get caught up in like a laundry list of like, please give me this, please give me this, please give me this, please give me
Hmm.
this, give, 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 give. And as with any good conversation, it's not just about giving. It's
Hmm.
about give me this. Now tell me how and what I can give to you in order to make the exchange equal.
Hmm.
For me, that often looks more like how can I heal my path and live in the way that works best for sustainability of life and, putting my spirituality in the planet where I want that to be in my life, which is more of the forefront. What can I give in order to have that? Well, then like I have like a list of things that I can give and that I try to give. Offering is also a really important part of prayer.
Hmm.
We don't just offer our words, but we also offer gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, I think gratitude is like one of the most important ways to pray. Pray for what you're grateful for. Pray for, thanks. It's not always about gimme, 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 which I think the Catholics say there are like 4 or 5 categories of prayer. One of them being like praise, and one of them being thanksgiving, another one being like, I guess, in times of, need. So they like categorize it. I mean, I think there's every type of prayer to match every type of emotion and situation. So,
For sure.
but but I thought that was interesting. And it's like if you did want to, study like the categories of prayer, being like making sure you were giving each balanced energy from you. So not always asking for something, but making sure sometimes you're just so thankful for what you already have.
Hmm. Or praising what you already have.
Right.
Or praising the beauty that is whatever it is you're praying to.
Hmm.
Like we talked about this a little bit last time when we got off the podcast thing, but like Nako and the Medicine for the People, I am a huge fan of that band. He's an amazing person. He's a great musician, and he has a song called "Love Letters to God," and like to me, that's what one of the prayers are. Like if you are praising, then you're sending like a love letter to God, because
Hmm.
when you praise somebody, it's usually out of love. Usually, doesn't always have to
Yeah.
be,
When
but.
your intentions are pure, I think it is. Yeah.
Hmm. I also think that it's kind of like you have to be, really careful with your wording and your intentions. Otherwise, like we have already said, like you can actually inadvertently pray for lack, and then you will just be receiving lack because you're so focused on lacking something. So it's always kind of like I love the universe so much. It's a tricksy one, that universe. It's a tricksy one. It'll give you what you want, just not always what you think you want. You know, it'll find loopholes. It's like dealing with a djinn, you know? Like you have to be super careful in your phrasing and wording because if you don't, it's gonna find ways to make you more aware of your phrasing and wording.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did I say that in a clear manner repeatedly? Or is this djinn just gonna like pop up and be like, "Oh, you wanted $1 million? Well, here's a million deer running down the street."
Ha ha ha. That's
That's what
funny.
that's what you said, man. Like,
That's funny.
colloquialisms are lost on God.
Yeah, and that's where I like to draw the likeness between prayer and spell work because I mean, it's the same fucking thing. So you have a set intention, you maybe even have like a set mantra or incantation or formula that you're using to like put your energy out there and then receive something back. So, I mean, I don't know. So honestly, for me, prayer is almost more of like spell work because I do practice like green magic. Um, so I think like setting the stage for your prayer is really important. So I have an altar at my house, and I have like my energetic spiritual tools that I use, which are usually plants and candles. And I make sure that I'm like have a very focused set intention, and then I sit with that, and then I listen. So I say a spell, maybe I do like a silent prayer, but then I always take the time to listen.
Mm.
So for me, it's like I have to like obviously you could pray at any moment with any emotion, if you need it in that moment, but for me it's like I really want to make sure I'm like focused,
Mm.
especially if I'm like maybe asking for something or asking for clarity or.
Hmm. I
But
totally agree with that.
yeah.
You work often in ritualistic and ceremonial settings, so it
Hmm.
makes sense that that would be one of your building blocks and foundations for prayer work. I actually don't work in ritualistic such situations often. There are like specific days and moments where I'm like, this is a super sacred moment. I have to do this. You know, when
Hmm.
I feel pulled to do that, then I do it. But for most of my practice, I don't actually sit in a ritualistic standpoint, or honestly, ceremony very much. I just
Hmm.
kind of am here. But I do think that that can be really important, especially if you haven't had like a lot of focus, like helping these tools are made to be focal points so that we can use our energy in a more appropriate setting and a more appropriate way. Usually when I'm praying, I just go outside and sit on the ground and like have a conversation with God. Sometimes
Yeah.
I have tea, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I
Hmm.
smoke a cigarette, sometimes I don't. I don't smoke cigarettes often, but there are days when it's like I need this tool to help me get the words in a better way. And, tools are really important, and smoking can be a very important tool.
Hmm.
Anything, like it doesn't have to be a cigarette, it could be whatever you want to smoke. I used to smoke a blend that was like lavender and Damiana and Mugwort and mullein, and it was
Yes.
really good blend to smoke. But the point of smoking to me is to maintain that connection because when you smoke, you are imbibing all of the elements. You have the earth, which is the thing that you're lighting on fire. You have the fire, which creates the
Just lighting the
combustion.
thing.
Yeah, and then you are inhaling, which is air. And then when it hits your mouth, that is the moment that water comes into play. So all of the elements are there when you are smoking something, which innately to me means that smoking something, anything, is an invocation of the moment of acting of prayer. I thought about this like a couple years ago because like there are so many people who will have a cigarette in like really bad times. And I also do that too, but I use it to like ground myself down with it because I am aware of this practice and I fully believe it. So I try to be more conscious with my use of it. But I do know like a couple of people who are like, they just want to complain and bitch when they smoke their cigarette. And it's
Hmm.
like, you're just complaining and bitching to God right now. This is your prayer. You're gonna just get more of this in the future.
Right. Like, yeah, this is your offering right now, and you're creating this connection between you and spirit. And like, yeah, you choose to bitch.
It's just, I mean, we all have to do it sometimes, and source is there for that.
Yeah. But it goes back to like ancient times when we were tribal, and it was like when you were sitting with the smoke and smoking and sharing that in community, like it was a very powerful spiritual exchange. So, you know, but it's like lost so much of that magic because of the way that
Mhm.
we treat things in our society. But so yeah, I think that it would just be mindful when you are smoking and maybe think of it as an offering and think of just small ways that you can shift your perspective and communicate with spirit when you have like that quiet moment with your cigarette. I mean, I was always so jealous, like working in salons, everyone fucking smokes, and they would all get to go outside like multiple times a day and like have a moment. And if you didn't smoke, you didn't really get to do that. So,
Mhm.
which I would end up just going out there anyway, but hang out with the smokers, have a laugh. But yeah, I was always like, man, what a beautiful little like private moment in your day to like ground yourself and relax for a minute and just like you and the smoke.
Mhm. But you can also use it, through incense or smudging.
Hmm.
Smudging cleanses the area of negative energies. It also cleanses the area of bacteria, which is why smudging your house feels so good, because you probably had a lot of weird bacteria growing, and you should just fucking smudge that shit. Don't Clorox. Don't. Just smudge. I mean, actually, that's bad advice in this current time in our pandemic life. Don't forget to clean your house.
True, but a gentle cleansing, you could totally smudge it out. Which actually, I want to talk about a few different herbs that I love to smudge with.
Yeah.
So smudging, it clears the space and it evokes a prayerful mindset because most smudge smokes do have a very beautiful scent. And so when you do it over and over, when you smell that, it just brings you into this spiritual space very quickly, like a memory of a smell.
Hmm.
Um, and it's also an offering to spirit or source. So I'm going to go over like just three or four of my favorites. Number one is mugwort. So mugwort is to me, mugwort is the smudge you use when you're ready to listen because it is like a very feminine energy, which is like receiving energy. So if you're filling your air with this like mugwort scent, it's going to open up your intuition. It's going to remove any like stagnant, stuck energy. And so that one for me is always like it's the one I reach to because it soothes me the fastest. I love mugwort. It has such an amazing
Hmm.
smell. And you can also smoke it too. But traditionally it started, which I think a lot of these herbs started as smudges and then they maybe realized like, oh, but you can inhale the smoke like directly if you roll it up in a leaf and smoke it or whatever. So mugwort, and then another one, like the most popular is sage. Sage is so magical. Um, it is for purification. It is for banishing negative energy, and it's really important for focus. So if you like a lot of my meditations with sage, it makes me just want to like sit up straight and pay attention. Like it gives me this like really, I just like sat up straight.
I did too.
It gives me a really, really like directed just focus on whatever's happening. And it's interesting that it does actually purify the air because it is so high in these essential oils that are antibacterial, antimicrobial. So it's interesting how like the physical and the spiritual align in that way. And a lot of people don't know that about sage, that it literally is like antibacterial. So you're literally cleaning the air while you're also purifying the energy. And then cedar is another good one. So cedar is very grounding because cedar trees, they've got deep roots and they're just strong and sturdy. So it gives you like this stabilizing energy. They're also used for protection and for, again, purification. But you can burn any herb that has essential oils and you'll get like a really awesome smoke out of it. Or do like resins like copal, tree resin, or frankincense, or any conifers like, pine, juniper. So just like experiment and see what you like and see how it makes you feel.
I would like to take this moment to say, do some research on where you're getting these items though, because there's a lot of people in
Oh
the
yeah.
world and there's like a kind of like a sustainability mishap in some regards. Like some places don't sustainably harvest their sage, they don't grow it, they just kind of like mess
Hmm.
up the environment with it. Same with like copal. Like copal's a huge export for Mexico. Like, it's great. It's one of my favorite smells in the entire world. I love copal, but I try to be like really like, well, it's a tree resin, so when you harvest it, you have to get it directly from the tree. Does it harm the tree? Are you cutting the tree down? Like what's going on with this moment, you know? So it's like really important to do research on where you're getting it as well as, you know, using it. Use it, please use it. But
Totally. I totally agree. And one of my favorite distributors is Mountain Rose Herbs online. So if you check them out, they are all about sustainability and just, respecting the earth, respecting where they get these things. And I want to say, like, use what's around you. Like, if you
mhm.
can go outside and find, a fir tree, then use that. Like, try that first. We need to
Hmm.
utilize what's around us. That's what it's there for.
Juniper and
So,
cedar are also all around us,
mm-hmm.
and they're pretty great people. I like them. I like hanging out with them.
Yeah, and a lot of those conifer trees, they actually produce, like the sappy resin. You can like harden it and make resin out of it and burn it that way, which is exactly what copal is, but it's from, Mexico or Central America. So, so yeah, just try to use what's around you and do research on what's easily accessible.
Hmm. If you're smudging a room, I would like to speak about the importance of getting the corners. The corners are so important because we build our houses with right angles all over the place, and energy flows in a circular spiral motion. It doesn't normally go to the corners, you know, it doesn't do this. So in our houses, we typically have built up energy that is stagnant in the corners, which is why people usually see entities and things like that in corners because that area has so much dense energy there. So if you are smudging your house, please definitely take the time to get all of the corners, your baseboards, your ceiling boards, the corners of the room, all of it. And, you know, to do a really good smudging, you should shut your windows. The room should be kind of smoky, and then you should finish your smudging and then open the window
Then
and allow
release.
that to get out.
Hmm.
Once again, we go back to holding an intention and then releasing the intention.
Yes. I didn't actually know that about like I never thought about energy getting stuck in the corners. That's really, really cool.
I want to live
Yeah.
in a roundhouse, so I've thought about corners for a really long time.
And that's what's up. Roundhouses are what's up.
Yeah, if you've ever been in a round structure, you know, like the energy is just so much cleaner and different than an energy in a house or room or whatever area with corners because of the stagnation of it. In a roundhouse, the energy doesn't get trapped. It can't. Where's it going to go? Well, I mean, it could if, you know, you have like a couch, you don't ever move your couch. You get trapped underneath your couch with the dust bunnies, little dust bunny raves of energy. Woo! Sorry, that was a really weird one.
Yeah, true. Um, but yeah, just allowing smudging to like help you, what I call set the stage for your, spiritual practice, your prayer. It could just be an important tool. So,
And once again, all spiritual practice is a form of prayer. Like you talked about, music is a form of prayer and movement is a form of prayer. Like one of my most powerful forms of prayer is actually moving my body, like through yoga, through dance, through walking, through movement, you know, even repetitive craft tasks like painting or drawing, or like I'm getting into weaving, so weaving is pretty prevalent in my life. Anything that's repetitive that you have to do over and over and over again is a form of prayer because you're setting the intention, and if you can maintain that intention, that item that you are having that moment with, it's like prayer in the micro universe because you are creating it and you're creating it with this intention. And if you hold that intention the whole time you're making it, then it will become a powerful object to help other people use in prayer. It's like I make dream catchers. Every time I make dream catchers, I like pray with them. I sing over them the entire time I'm making them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's really fun for me, but I think that it makes them more powerful as spiritual tools to help people dream because they're all
Yeah.
dreaming prayers.
Man, that's beautiful though to like, yes, put your intention into just like the things you make with your hands, like, like love being the most important ingredient in food, for example. Like when you're
Hmm.
making food, you have this intention and this flow of like energy that you can make it positive.
Hmm. I think that's why mandalas are so beautiful because when you're doing a mandala work, like your focus is there. That's all you can focus on. Otherwise, you're going to mess up and your whole mandala is going to be totally thrown off because it's about symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like super, super intense to focus on it. Also, if you've seen sand mandalas that Buddhists create or Eastern spiritualist people create, it's like a mandala, but it's made completely out of sand. So it's 100%, uh, wow, I just lost that word. Temporary,
Mm.
and there's a lot of beauty to temporary art, but like it's like once again, that's so beautiful because they put the intention in it and then they make it and they have to maintain that intention while they're making it because they're literally hovering over it with like sand, like putting sand in specific places. And then after a certain time, that has to get swept away. So they, fill it with their intention and then once again, it is released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we talk about, the give and take of prayer, then we have to talk about receiving the messages, which is
Hmm.
like the other side. So I think messages can be tiny or they can be huge epiphanies, you know? Um, so I actually would like to share a really personal story.
Woo! Story time.
So it blew my mind. So I'm currently dating the love of my life,
Woo!
and so many things align with us that, and it was a tough little battle to get to where we are, but it was totally worth it. And just so many times along the way, it's like the universe keeps like reminding me, like, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. This is who you're supposed to be with. So um, before we lived together, we lived separately. Okay. And he had a little altar set up in his bathroom, and it has just all these little knickknacks and like bones and like cute little stuff. And it has this Joker card, like a playing card. And so I was, I think, peeing one morning, after like spending the night, and I was looking at his little altar, and I'm like, he's so cute. And then I was like, okay, universe, like I see this Joker card in front of me, and I'm like, if this is the person I'm supposed to be with, I want you to show me a playing card in life randomly. Like I just want to see one, but it has to be like it can't be a deck of cards. It has to be like a single card, right? So I say this little prayer to the universe and I ask for a sign and I like set this very specific intention, and I think I spent the next few days like trying to get out and about as much as possible to see if I could like come across a sign, and nothing. So I'd kind of like put it in the back of my mind and not put much more like, energy into it. So then it's is like less than a week later though. I go and visit my parents, and my mom's really cute. So my parents' bedroom has like an attic roof shape, where it's like a low triangle. And so above the bed, my mom will hang like little fairies, or like she'll put little cute pictures or whatever. Because you can just, when you lay back, you just like see it right in front of you, right? So I was like hanging out, shooting the shit with my parents, and then I laid down on my dad's side of the bed, which I never do because like he's usually there. So I like laid back and I look up, and there's a fucking card that my mom had gotten my dad, and it's the King of Hearts. And it's just like posted right there, and then it like hit me, and I was like, "Holy shit, there's my playing card." Like,
There it is.
and when that shit happens, like your rational brain is like, "Oh, come on, it's a coincidence. Like that doesn't mean anything." But then a bigger spiritual part of me is like, that's what I asked for and I got it. So,
Hmm.
it kind of just And then I recently shared that story with my mans, and we had a little moment. It was cute. But
Aw.
yeah, so that's probably like my favorite receiving that has ever been gifted to me.
That's beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Uh,
I think it's really interesting because it seems like feedback time. I'm going to give you some feedback
yeah,
on your beautiful story. You ready for this feedback on your beautiful story?
I'm
It was
ready.
shit. I didn't like it. No, I'm joking. That was a beautiful story. I absolutely loved it. Um, it seemed like you set this intention to see this card and then you were actively looking for it.
hmm
When you're actively looking for something, you did not fully release that intention. So the
hmm
moment you like stopped, then the universe is like, oh, finally, she's done talking.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I totally agree with that. But it's like you're like so excited to like get a message or see a sign that you like, you're like very actively looking for it, but you do have to fully release it to the universe and just if it's going to come to you, it's going to come to you. But yeah, so it's like the moment that I finally like stopped thinking about it, it
It
happened.
happened. It happened.
Which is how most things work, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a couple of instances where it was like, that was quick. Oh, that was a big one too. Like, but actually, so I usually when I pray like that, I don't usually set like an intention, but we have spoke on this matter before, and because of you, now if I need like direct guidance, I'll be like, show me a sign in this specific way so that I know that I'm seeing it. And I'm not just like trying to put shit together. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite ones that have happened to me was I was going through like a really weird rough patch and I needed guidance on it and I like prayed about it and I wanted to know if it was okay that I had done the things that I had done. And I told Source, I was like, I'm driving to my parents' house today. It's like a 3 hour drive. On that drive, if this is the correct thing for me to do and it's okay, let me see a hawk. And I got in my car and I pulled out of my driveway and I'm like 30 minutes in and I see a hawk on the power line and I was like, "Oh, awesome." But then I kept seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
I kept seeing them like over and over and over again. So it was like this even more compounded moment of Source being like, "No, this is okay. You are right. It's fine. You good, girl. Like, just keep doing you. It's totally cool." And I was like, "Okay. All right. I've seen like 4 of these guys today. About to turn into my driveway. There's not another one. All right." Making sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like paying attention to the way that this symbol is like presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And I mean, driving down the road is a metaphor for driving down the road of life. So so it's like the continual like universal nod along the way, like yes, bitch, yes.
Yeah, it was a very real moment.
I love that. And that's just like me seeing this card that my mom had given my dad, and they've been married for fucking, 30 something years. So, yeah, paying attention to how we receive these messages.
Mm-hmm. It's super important. It also can be confusing and hard to navigate if you've never really been in symbology for a long time. Like we talked about earlier, I've been in symbology for the very vast majority of my life. So normally when I see symbols, I can be like, well, this probably means this, or this is a message, or this is my brain just giving me random shit right now. I probably need to go to sleep. I haven't slept for like 24 hours. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe it is a message. And then it's like, I need to
Right?
go to sleep.
Interesting.
So I think the best way to receive messages is to completely release the intention after you've set the intention that you want to see a message or that you want an answer in a specific way, to completely let go of that and to allow it to happen and to trust your natural instinct, your intuition that whatever you see is actually a sign. Because I like balance a lot. I really firmly believe that everything means something, but I also really firmly believe that everything means nothing too.
hmm
So you have to have a certain sense of wayfinding to figure out. is this meaningful to me or is this meaningful to somebody else?
True. Or am I maybe just a messenger in this situation? Am I maybe being used as a tool? Yeah.
We all are a pawn in God's game at some point,
Mhm.
and that's totally fine. Like, that's fine. You have
Yeah.
to be.
So that you just reminded me of this book I read, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Have you ever read this?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, it's such an easy read, but it's fucking profound. If you ever get a chance, ask Zach Lerman about it because it changed his fucking life. But
Oh, well, I
I
love conversations with him,
so yeah, so
so I will.
I remember when he found the book and read it and it just like evoked all these changes. But I recently found it at the thrift store before the COVID shit shut down on thrift stores. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna read this book finally. That was like 15 years ago. So I got it, I read it in like 2 days, but the biggest takeaway for me was this idea that there are no ordinary moments. And when you realize that, it's like every moment means something. Every moment you know, is a motion of the universe, but yet if every moment is unique, then none of it's unique, but it's all unique. It's like this paradox and it's
Yes!
so but it's like if in every moment like if you have these routines you do, like you're sitting on the couch, you're eating this certain food with this certain person talking about these certain things, like it is a beautiful fucking moment to be alive. That
Hmm.
you're experiencing this reality and whatever the underlying messages or tones are for you, whether you're perceiving them or not. It's like every moment means something. I just love that.
I completely agree with that. Like 100%. I like love paradox. It's one of my favorite, deepest subjects to ever contemplate and think on.
Mhm.
So beautiful and so difficult and so beautiful and so difficult. And so beautiful and so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it gets your mind in a jumble if you try to like think about it for too long. But
It's
then,
an endurance.
yeah, but it brings you back to just like, okay, everything is balanced, like the yin and the yang, the freaking macro, micro, I mean, everything. So of
Hmm.
course there's like a flip side.
Hmm. Everything is its opposite at the exact same moment that it's not its opposite,
Hmm.
which is so many people are like, that don't make sense. And it's like, that's a paradox. It makes sense. Like, so as you probably are aware, I have a book that I have not published, and I really need to do that. I just actually received a message from somebody whose name appears in the book that he didn't want his name in the book, so I need to go and edit it, which is why I haven't. But the very last page of that book is actually the story of everything, and it's
Hmm.
really, really intense. And one of my favorite lines from it, hold on, let me pop my collar.
I'm gonna quote
Ego,
myself real quick.
yeah, ego boost for a moment, but they weren't really my words. Every mistake is mine, everything else is from the divine. I read another book, and that's like one of the biggest things that came out of that book was in the introduction. The woman said that, and it really hits me like, yes, every mistake is mine, everything else is from the divine.
Ooh, I
But
love that.
I know, so powerful. But the line that I like the most is that this is this is how the universe works in paradox. It doesn't owe you to make sense to you. It never owes you that. You can either accept it or not. That's your choice. And I think that's pretty powerful because like so many people want the universe to just naturally make sense. And like, yo, the universe is we're all here. Like what makes sense to me doesn't make sense to you. It's in totally perspective based. So the universe can't ever always make sense.
Hmm.
And it never, just like you don't have to, and I don't have to, and anyone else going through some weird shit in their life, you never have to explain your actions. You don't owe that to anybody to have to own up and be like, I did this because you're seeking understanding when you do
Right.
that. And understanding doesn't always have to occur.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I love that. Hell yeah, girl, you need to publish that book.
yeah, I know. I
trying
probably
to
work.
read it.
I'm trying to read it over
Trying to
here.
read that book.
I mean, it's pretty done. It just now I do need to go back and take out a name, but that's okay. He was
So
also.
will this be your second book or is it your third?
It's my second.
Okay, so your first one was To the Days When I Am Blue. Is
That's
that it?
it. To the days
Yeah.
when I am blue.
Yes, a book of really amazing poems.
Thank you. I have another book of poems that I'm working on that I will be publishing after this book that I'm
Okay.
working on now. The book I'm doing now is a book of it's called Dream Stories, Fables, and Remembrances, and it is a collection of dreams, real fucking dreams that have not been edited in any way and will not be edited in any way. So, word up, if your name appears in this book and it's in the dream section, it's because I did dream about you and you did not get the chance to tell me that you didn't want your name in my book. I don't use last names, so maybe no one else knows that I know you. If you have a problem with that, talk to my editor. You're going to be very disappointed in that
Who's
conversation
also me.
because it's going to be me. Yeah. So it's a collection of dream stories, fables, which are original short stories that I've actually written, and remembrances, which are just bits about my past that I feel pulled to share. Like, this happened to me when I was a kid. This happened to me when I was a kid. This happened to me when I was in college. It was all right situation.
Yeah, that sounds fucking awesome.
Pretty excited about it. It's been. Yeah, and let's not talk about that anymore. Thank you
Okay,
for the ego boost. I'm done. Woo!
just a little plug for you. Um, yeah, so is there anything else you want to say about prayer?
um, I mean, I really feel like that was pretty good about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's our side of the conversation. Prayer is a conversation. Intuition and or intention is incredibly important. How you choose to pray is all different, like what prayer works for you may not work for me. So once again, find your individuality, find your way to pray. Um, I think in order to have the most powerful prayers, if you make it a point to like have a ceremony with it, make it some sort of ritual, put it in this special sacred place where it's outside of this normalcy, mundane existence that we have, then it becomes more powerful because you're putting the intention aside for it. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
scooping up more of your intention and being like, I want to do it like this. And then I'm also going to do it like this. I
Mm-hmm.
think that can be very powerful.
Totally. And then remembering, because one of my issues is remembering not to have to like build it up so much and make it this like if I put so much energy into it, it makes me like want to do it less. Does that make sense? Like
Hmm.
spread it out more and just to remember that it doesn't always have to be this like epic, really powerful thing. It can also be part of the mundane. It can be just like a thank you or you know, a little silent prayer, whatever.
Hmm. I like praying over my food. I like praying before I go to bed. I like praying when I wake up. I like when I'm in nature, often I find myself in prayer conversation. And, there, once again, like there are different kinds of prayers. And I think that it's really important not to do all of those different kinds of prayer in one prayer, because that's like a really jumbly, messed up conversation that's really difficult for anybody to understand. So, like, pick a topic, what you want to pray about that. And if you're like, oh, I also want to add this on, don't stick that shit on as a PS. Do it in a
Hmm.
different letter.
Yeah, just keeping like a more pure, solid intention so
And
as
if,
to be heard.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, if you need to complain, like, that's fine. There have definitely been some really hard prayer moments in my life where I like sit down and I'm like, Source, you and we're having words right now because I want to know why is this happening? What is going on? I'm not blaming you. I'm totally seeing it's me, but like, what? you need to do something about some situations because they're totally out of my control. Usually that's when I pray for like world health and like global health and things that I physically can't change, a war
Mm-hmm.
in, half a world away or even a state away. But when I can pray over it and give my energy to helping that situation. And anger can be sacred if used appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes my offering is my anger over situations and seeking to understand the situations and seeking a better place for me to be able to sit with the knowledge that they're happening right now.
Yeah. Anger is powerful. And anger, I mean, if you're aware, you're going to be angry.
Mm,
So, yeah. And I think it is important to separate what you do have control over and what you don't, like you said, but still be able to do what you can, which sometimes is just pray.
it's true.
Instead of getting overwhelmed and escaping deeper into your Netflix binge, which is something we've all done. But
Hey yo, can't say that I haven't. God, pretty far into Naruto now. Word up.
Oh,
I think it is important to have those moments where you escape because it's so overwhelming. But I think finding ways to navigate those moments where you're not doing it all the time is very important.
hmm
I've found that I like to be really present as possible. And if I'm present for like 3 days straight and I've been dealing with like a whole bunch of people, say like before society went down, when I was like at a job working and being present with all these people and not having like deeper interactions like I crave, but like only surface interactions because I'm just giving them an appointment and taking their money or getting some other thing for them and, not being deep, then like after a while of that being present in that moment, it is actually really helpful for me to come home and be like, I'm gonna watch a movie right now. I'm gonna let my
yeah,
mind not do whatever it needs to do. And, power to the people who can't, who are like, I don't need to watch a movie at all in any way because like my mind is always where it needs to be. Like that's powerful as hell. And one day I hope to be there. But I also
Mhm.
know that I really like visual art and storytelling. So
Yeah, and it's a way to decompress and it's a way to, again, release. And sometimes you just need to release. So even
mm,
people who, are closer to perfection and don't watch Netflix, I think they're releasing in other ways.
for sure,
So
they
it's
are.
like a human necessity.
Yeah, I for sure I get that. Yeah, I like that. I like that you
Mhm.
said that. It's a good release. It's also really important to not live in that release all the time because then you can't really get shit done.
Mhm. Which goes back to like openness, closeness, distractions, you know.
Yeah.
It's all connected, folks.
Ah, I see the threads now.
Jeez Louise. Well, yeah. Um, I feel great about that.
Cool. Me too. Oh, wait. What was in your cup? You were drinking something earlier. What was in that?
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about what's in my cup.
Yeah,
Um,
what's in the cup? What's in the cup?
we need like a little mini theme song for that.
What's in Xanthi's cup? What's in Xanthi's cup?
So today we are drinking some Kava Kava root. It's native to Polynesia and the Latin name means intoxicating pepper. It's actually
Meow.
related to black pepper. And I thought it was perfect for today because it is still used in religious and ceremonial gatherings and rituals. It's also a social lubricant. Um, and it's one of these plants that we love so much and we needed it so much that it now cannot survive on its own in the wild. So
Mm.
kava is directly dependent on humans um, growing it and tending to it. So keep that in mind if you do consume kava and try to find like a sustainable source. But kava is so loved. I don't see it like disappearing from, our lives. But so if you've ever had it, it's really cool. It has like a numbing effect on your mouth and your mucous membranes, so it relaxes you. It's really good for mental stimulation, but it also relaxes the body, so you get this like almost like euphoric buzz from it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's good for like anxiety, worry. It loosens you up. It brings you joy. It heightens your senses, and it's great for people who suffer from insomnia. However, it can be habit forming, so you want to do it, in moderation, and it can also be hard on your liver. So again, in moderation.
Be an alcoholic, be aware.
Yeah, it's a very, very powerful thing. It's like gentle if you don't overdo it, but it can become a problem because it's so great. It feels so good. But I remember the first time I ever had it, my friend Ross, I was like having really bad period cramps. He's like, I got something for you. And he brought me like a jar of it, and it was the best thing ever. Like literally just like, I mean, it just relaxed me so much and no cramps. And I like went to sleep and it was great.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun thing to work with. Really spiritual, magical. And I know you've had kava.
Uh-huh.
You have any comments on it?
I really love it. I actually really love kava. I like it using it in a social situation, but usually the social situations that I find myself drinking kava in are with like you. So obviously we're going to be talking about some spiritual things. So like
Yeah.
it in itself is like a ceremony. Like our conversations to me sometimes become ceremony. And when we drink kava, it like helps ease that into a more gentle way instead of just like slapping you in your face and be like, all right, ceremony, bitch. Like, no. Like
It's like
stepping slowly into it.
a naturally occurring ceremony. So
Hmm.
beautiful. Yeah, and it does relax you and makes you like open up more easily, and it also makes you more receptive to like, spiritual thought. Yeah, I love it.
I do too.
I wish we used to have a kava bar here, but I wish we had. I mean, and now High Garden Tea has been destroyed in the tornado, so what are we going to do? We're
I
going to
don't
make
know.
our own. That's what I do. Another interesting thing about it is that you have to do a cold extraction. So if you were to put like kava powder in hot water, it would just destroy all of the compounds that we want to extract from it. So you have to put it in like a liquid, like a room temperature liquid. I do a mixture of water and coconut milk, and you have to like beat it. You have to like manipulate it to get all of these awesome chemicals out of it. So it's actually a ceremony itself creating the kava drink because you're in this flow of exchange with the plant and you're trying to like work it out. And I mean, it takes like 10 to 15 minutes of kneading this, powder. So
Pro tip.
yeah. Yeah. If you have any questions on kava, hit me up and we can talk.
You just need to like get it a nice cold bath, light some candles, give it some massage that shit for like 10 minutes. And then it'll be like, yeah, I totally want to work with you. You just relax me. I'm gonna relax you.
Exactly. And traditionally, they actually used to chew on the roots and then they would spit them into, I think it was a hibiscus shell or something. And then they would sift it and then have it in communal vats for everyone.
That makes
And you would
sense. I
drink
bet
it like
it,
immediately. But yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay. So you don't let it sit because I know there's like other tribal things where you like eat something. I think it's corn and then you spit into it and then you like leave that for a little bit and it ferments and makes it pretty alcoholic.
Mm.
If you want to drink some spit, some alcoholic spit,
I
I
mean,
mean, I'd be into it.
yeah, that's how you share antibodies and get exposed to germs and stuff.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't recommend that nowadays, but
It
you
was
know,
fine before the pandemic. During and after, we're a little hesitant.
you don't want to like baby bird your friends some kava root. Open wide.
I have two people forming in my head right now who I've seen baby bird each other way too often.
Ew.
And they know who they are. They know who they are.
That's funny. Or like in middle school, like, I mean, I don't know who else used to do this, but if your boyfriend was like chewing gum, like, you want my gum? You're like, yeah. And then you chew their gum.
You like make out with them to get the gum first.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, that's adorable in a pretty weird way.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah. Well, I guess that kind of brings us to a close.
Oh, this is me now.
What?
So, I'm going to offer up a prayer. If you would like to join me in this prayer, just simply sit in a silent, still spot and receive my words. And hopefully, my prayer will help you. And hopefully, I don't mess it up.
Hey, it's between you and Source. It's don't worry about anyone else.
It's what I try to do, but thank
We're
you for the
just
reminder.
observing. We're just observing.
I'm watching you. Okay. Beautiful light and dark that curates all that I see and know. Beautiful love of creation and wonder. Greatest of greats, thing that gives me breath. The wondrous wonder that is all that I know. The good, the bad, and everything in between. I humbly and respectfully and lovingly thank you for every single moment and every single thing. Thank you. Thank you for the life that you have given me. Thank you for all of the moments of being blessed. Thank you for all of the moments that I have considered a curse. Thank you for all of the lessons that you have chosen, handpicked for me to learn, and that I have handpicked with you for me to learn. Thank you. Thank you so much for life. Thank you so much for the release of life when I am weary and cannot travel in this body anymore. Thank you for the rainbows and the grass. Thank you for the wind and the rain. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for allowing it to burn my skin and not burn my skin. Thank you for hot baths and good meals. Thank you for the laughter of my friends and my family. Thank you for the words that they have shared with me on all ends. Thank you for their hard words of love and their goofy words of love. Thank you for the moments that they've been snippy to me so that I can evaluate myself better. Thank you. With all of my light and love, I am forever in your service to do your bidding here. Thank you. Amen again.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
All right. That's a wrap.
Goodbye.
Peace out.